What's going on everyone, and welcome back to another video. My name is Norman and today's analysis video is going to be about the Europa League Final between Chelsea and Arsenal. So Chelsea lined up in their normal 4-3-3 formation and Giroud was back at the number 9 position, and Chelsea shifted to 4-1-4-1 without possession, while Jorginho covered the spaces in between the lines. Arsenal on the other hand lined up in a 3-4-1-2 formation with Ozil playing in behind Aubameyang and Lacazette. And Arsenal shifted to 5-2-1-2 without possession, and they also shifted to a back four later in the second half. So we have seen this many times this season that teams often try to man-mark Jorginho. Unai Emery tried this approach at the Emirates Stadium when he marked Jorginho using Ramsey, and Arsenal won the game 2-0. Arsenal's plan in this game was again the same. They once again tried to man-mark Jorginho to disrupt Chelsea's build-up. Arsenal without possession kept a 5-2-1-2 shape, with Ozil playing in behind Aubameyang and Lacazette. Ozil was playing behind the two strikers, and he was given the job of marking Jorginho, the same role that Aaron Ramsey performed in their last meeting. But the difference between Ozil and Ramsey was their work rate. Ramsey worked really hard and he tried to cover Jorginho throughout the game, while Ozil on the other hand was too lazy and he only tried to mark Jorginho for the first 10 to 15 minutes. And secondly, as the season has progressed, Chelsea have found ways of building their play even without Jorginho's input, and that's what they did for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Ozil on Jorginho and two strikers on Chelsea's two centre-backs, and the two Arsenal midfielders are trying to cover Chelsea's respective two midfielders. Now Arsenal's wingbacks can't push up to man-mark Chelsea's fullbacks, because if they push up, then they will leave Arsenal's defense in a 3v3 position against Chelsea's front three. And Chelsea also had Giroud, who could be used as a target man, and Pedro and Hazard can make runs behind Giroud. Arsenal's wingbacks can't fully push up, so Jorginho signals Kepa to play the ball to Emerson, who can receive the ball with time and space. Jorginho was marked, but Chelsea were still able to build their play using Kepa. Again, using the fullbacks and Kepa's passing range to break the high press. And even though Jorginho was tightly marked by Ozil, Jorginho was still very important for Chelsea's play, as he often dragged Ozil wide to create central passing lanes from the back to the front. Chelsea tried to use Arsenal's tight marking to their benefit. Jorginho pulls Ozil wide and Kovacic pulls Xhaka wide. As a result, a central passing lane has opened up, big space in the middle, and a pass from David Luiz to Eden Hazard. David Luiz to Giroud, and Giroud's one-touch pass to Hazard. Hazard's one-touch pass back to Giroud, who immediately looks to free Emerson. So Chelsea used that Arsenal tight marking to eliminate the midfield link and provided a direct passage from back to the front. But Chelsea only had to do that for the first 15 to 20 minutes, because after that, Ozil just totally gave up, and Jorginho was able to move freely and Chelsea were back to their normal build-up. I have already mentioned this in my previous videos as well, that Chelsea like to play with a very high defensive line. So there are always big spaces available behind Chelsea's defensive line if you can make perfectly timed runs. Very high defensive line from Chelsea, and Arsenal often tried to play long passes from the back to exploit those spaces. Again, very high line and a first time pass behind the line to free Lacazette. And that's where Kepa comes into play, as he is someone who is very good at reading these situations and leaving his line to do the work of a sweeper. High defensive line from Chelsea, and Huddersfield are trying to exploit the space behind the line by playing a first time long pass behind the high defensive line. Kepa anticipates the situation and leaves his line to do the job of a sweeper goalkeeper and covers the spaces behind the high line. Long pass from Torreira to Lacazette. Kepa is not coming out just yet. He is waiting to see Lacazette's first touch, and if it's a good one, Kepa will move back in the goal line. And if the first touch is not a good one, then Kepa will immediately jump out to cover the space. Lacazette's first touch was not a good one, and it took the ball away from him. Kepa immediately moves out and covers the space. But Arsenal's real threat in this game was their wide overloads. Both Kolasinac and Maitland-Niles were able to find acres of spaces on the wide areas, and they created some very good chances for Arsenal. Both Aubameyang and Lacazette were playing on the outside of Chelsea's centre-back, and that way they were able to pull Chelsea's fullbacks narrow. Both Aubameyang and Lacazette are staying in between the centre-back and the fullback, and that way they are keeping Chelsea's centre-backs and also the fullbacks engaged. The two strikers were able to pull Chelsea's defense narrow, and that created the spaces on the wide areas for Arsenal's wingbacks. Aubameyang pulls Azpilicueta narrow, and he creates the space for Kolasinac. Pedro is now tracking back, and Arsenal now have a wide overload 2v1 in their favour. Xhaka's pass to Kolasinac, who plays across inside the box for his two strikers, attacking the goal box. Pedro did not track back, and he also did not spot Azpilicueta defensively. Kolasinac once again in so much space, and Pedro is again nowhere to be seen. Since Arsenal's wingbacks were playing so high up the pitch to exploit those wide spaces, so Chelsea always had chances to catch Arsenal on transitions. Kolasinac was caught on transition, and Chelsea are now trying to exploit the wide space behind Kolasinac. First time pass in the wide space to release Pedro. 2v2 at the back in Chelsea's favour. Giroud makes a very well-timed run behind Sokratis, but Pedro's pass was not a good one. But Arsenal's real issue defensively was their lack of midfield protection. We saw earlier how Jorginho and Kovacic pulled Arsenal's midfielders wide to open a central passing lane. Chelsea's midfielders kept repeating that same pattern throughout the game to disorganize Arsenal's midfield. All the three Arsenal midfielders have been pulled away by three Chelsea midfielders, and as a result, a big gap has opened up, and Hazard drops in the gap to receive the pass. Azpilicueta to Kante, and Kante to Eden Hazard. Arsenal's defense now has no protection, as Hazard receives the pass in that big space. Since the defense had no protection and Hazard had a free run, so Sokratis was forced to leave his line to cover Eden Hazard. Sokratis steps out. Jorginho and Giroud immediately create 2v1 against Koscielny. Hazard to Jorginho, Jorginho's one-touch pass to Giroud, and Giroud's excellent shot was blocked by Petr Cech. Koscielny couldn't do anything in that 1v2 situation. And this lack of midfield protection cost Arsenal heavily. Watch here. Torreira is looking at Pedro, signalling Emerson and making the run in front of the defense. Instead of rushing back to cover Pedro and cover the open space, Torreira simply jogs back, and he allows Pedro to receive the pass and score the goal. Again, Arsenal's defense had no protection. On the other hand, the three Chelsea midfielders were running madly to make blocks and clearances to help their defense. 2 out of the 4 Chelsea goals came as a result of their midfielders winning possession high up the pitch. No disrespect to Arsenal, but some of these Arsenal players just look like as if they don't want to be there. Aaron Ramsey already knew that he was leaving the club, and yet he worked so hard in that last Chelsea-Arsenal game. While Ozil, on the other hand, just totally gave up after the first 20 minutes. Congratulations to Maurizio Sarri and Chelsea. Sarri has finally won his first silverware, and I hope he stays at Chelsea. Thank you so much guys for watching the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.